This is a lifelong burglar. He gets stabbed really badly in a canteen. He is suing, I think, the government. We'll find out from Joseph Kotrie-Monson in a moment. Now, he's apparently never worked, but because he got stabbed in prison, he wants £5 million. What do you think about that? £5 million. He's never worked. He's only ever stolen from people. Is he due any money, or do you seriously think that's part and parcel of prison life? That's a really contentious issue. And here to discuss it from a legal point of view and a moral point of view is Joseph Kotrie-Monson, our brilliant legal eagle. Joseph, thank you so much for joining me. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because let me just throw out there, many people would think, okay, and this is Stephen Wilson. He told the court he suffered many injuries, including a torn liver, fractured spine, lacerated spinal cord. This chap, Patrick Chandler, they warned it, that he was violent. But lawyers for the ministry have told a high court judge that because Wilson had a 20-year criminal record, a £5 million payout would be out of accord with what society would perceive as being reasonable. I'm sure our listeners will have something to say about that. 0344 499 1000. You can text the word talk to 87222. You can exit Talk TV. Enough from me. Joseph Kotrie-Monson is here. Joseph, thank you for joining me.
No pressure, Trisha. Here we go. Good afternoon to you, of course. Good afternoon to everybody at home and on the move. Well, yes, this was a horrific attack, and the government actually does accept that it was avoidable. The government accepts liability. The issue here is not liability. The issue here is quantum. How much is £5 million reasonable? I think the fact that it's made the press, well, let's not second guess the judge on this, but I think that there are eyebrows being raised, yours and mine, and people shouldn't think that that means that we can't have faith in the legal system. This is undergoing. Nobody's been awarded this. But Patrick Chandler, the attacker, Trisha, that was someone the prison service knew was high risk or should have known, and he'd been openly fantasizing at the beginning of his sentence already for a violent murder about attacking more people, and the attack was horrific. I think you've mentioned it's damage to a spinal cord. He's not paralyzed for life. He's very lucky in that regard. I say lucky. He'll have to walk with a stick for the rest of his life, and he's in chronic pain. He also talks about fearing kitchens and knives and some what sounds to me as not a medical practitioner, something akin to post-traumatic stress and association with those things as a result. But it's the amount of damages, that's not the same as liability. The amount is called quantum, and it's subject to separate proceedings after the fact. And the government says that, well, yeah, he hasn't really earned money legitimately in his life. Their submissions are this guy is a low-level career criminal. He can't claim $5 million in the kind of pain and suffering. Say again?
I said lost earnings. He can't say, I need $5 million lost earnings because
well, it's not just
I can't steal. I can't go on funding my lifestyle with stealing.
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan of Jonathan Ames over at the Times, who wrote this article. But what's not clear from the article is whether it's just the lost earnings or the trauma and the separate element. The lost earnings is special damages, but general damages, we call that the pain and the suffering, sometimes the loss of amenity. It's the damage, the mental and physical damage that's done to you just on its own. Now, the interesting thing is it's easy to write off the £5 million, but this is being fought out by two King's Counsel, and the King's Counsel barrister on Stephen Wilson's team, that's the victim. And he is a victim whether you like him or not. Well, they feel that his case has merit, and I suspect it's on a no-win, no-fee. I don't want to speculate too much, but if it is, that means that this very, very experienced King's Counsel is fighting this on damages too. And who knows, I wouldn't be writing off Mr. Wilson's chances, Trisha, until the judge's ruling.
But people are going to go nuts. They're going to say, this guy, all he's done, I'm not saying he wasn't hurt. People are going to go nuts. This guy has only ever stolen. He's only ever thieved off. A lot of traumatized people who feel they can't go back into their homes.
Yeah.
So people are going to say, and this is really harsh. This is really harsh. This is not coming from me, but people are going to say, as terrible as his injuries are, at least he can't break into somebody else's house and traumatize them. I'm not saying it, but
Trisha.
people go nuts that, you know, a working person hasn't got 5 million. This guy's only ever stolen. Why should he get 5 million? Maybe.
Well, I'm not advocating that he should get 5 million, but at the same time, Trisha, I think that, and it's very rare for you and I to disagree on a point like this, but I have to say, you know,
not coming from. I'm
well,
just saying,
you know, I understand people's anxieties about this. I don't think it ends up at 5 million, but I suspect it doesn't end up at what the government solicitors, the Treasury lawyers in this, are claiming either. And do you know what? Even if you do bad things, even if you're a bad person, the way our justice system works is you still have access to it. You don't, just because you've been an inmate, doesn't mean that you don't have rights not to be savagely, your body destroyed by the type of attack that some people in that situation would regard themselves as unlucky not to have been killed. We're talking about a partially severed spinal cord. That is worth something. It might not be worth 5 million, but it's worth something, and it's something that a young man is going to carry for the rest of his life. Now, I'm not saying he's a young, good man, but I'm saying he's entitled to justice in other areas, even if we dislike him because of his other actions, just as much as wonderful people like you and me, Trisha.
No, listen, I agree. And we should add that this was this guy who did it, Patrick Chandler, he was deemed safe for kitchen work, where he had access to knives and other sharp items, and they knew. I mean, he'd been saying, "Oh, I want to kill somebody, I want to attack somebody," so you put him in to work in a kitchen. So I mean, they're liable. Let's move on, because I asked right at the beginning.